Wants to be sure we never forget him.
Sorry about that.
Good morning. My name is Jack Doggett, and I'm serving today as worship leader and speaker. One of the things I love about this congregation is the opportunity for members to participate in lay services every so often, which is what's happening here today. I want to welcome everyone to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Boulder, and I want to take a moment to extend a very warm welcome to everyone, particularly anyone who may be visiting for the first time. If you haven't already met Barb and Fred when you came in, please make a point of doing that before you leave. If you're joining us online, there's a visitor form in the link of the description, which would allow us to connect with you. Some of us are bringing our best selves to this space today, and some of us are bringing our struggling selves. But all of us are welcome here, and all of us are loved. Some of us already have open hearts, and some of us aren't quite there yet because our hearts have gotten a little beat up this week and might have forgotten how to trust and be open. But your heart is welcome here no matter how bruised. We welcome you here among us. And all of us are imperfect, but we're here to drop our defenses and trust that what happens in worship today is powerful and life-giving. Together, we will affirm this day and our being together, and that can make each of us braver, more compassionate, and wiser than when we woke up this morning. So we welcome you here. You know this thing about announcements, and people apologize. There's a lot of them here, so just take a deep breath and sit back. I have to do this. This Thursday, the 28th, we've been invited by Reverend David to consider fasting of food and drink from Tuesday. It's great to have friends in the audience. Tuesday, the 28th, from dawn to dusk, to fast as Muslims are doing all over the world during Ramadan for 30 days. And have that experience, and then be invited to share on Zoom with Reverend David at 7:30 people's experience. So you'll have a chance, if you are so inclined, to do that. And there'll be a link in the weekly email about that. Then on Thursday, this week, April 6th, at 6 o'clock, Reverend David and will be hosting a Passover Seder in the Sky Room. It's a potluck, so look on the website about the information of that. Whether you're Jewish is your heritage or never been to a Seder, you're invited. And there'll be some of our fellow UUs from the fellowship here as well. And then the following night, Friday night, is our community potluck. And then Reverend David is going to host a service of lament afterwards, which is a spare, intimate service that faces plainly and without consolation the reality of loss and suffering. And then one more. On April 8th, which is Saturday, there's a workshop going on here from 10 to 4. And Deborah has the details. There's a guest artist here who will offer a Yoga for the Voice workshop. So there's a few slots still open if you want to improve your physicality of singing. And finally, this is the final Sunday of our pledge drive, final Sunday in March. We thank everyone who's returned their pledge and helped us get over 70% of the way to our goal. No doubt Sam has probably gotten some cards today as people came in. And congratulations to the winners of the drawing. And there'll be a presentation of little sacks of goodies afterwards. Sherman is taking care of that. And of course, there's still time to fill out a pledge card. If you hadn't, please see the office. And that's it. Yeah. So the theme in worship for March is vulnerability. The Soul Matters study groups and the RE program have been following this theme. Today, 3 of us are going to share some of our life experiences where vulnerability took us to unexpected experiences. No doubt you will have some memories come up in this process where you may have had similar experiences. I'm going to invite you to stay on the soft side of those memories. You know, we're hard enough on ourselves when these edges come up in our lives, so just be easy with yourself on that today. I want to share some opening words. It's a poem from Rosemary Lohndorf called The Way It Is. She says, over and over, we break open. We break and we break and we open. For a while, we try and fix the vessel as if to be broken is bad. As if with glue and tape and steady hand, we might bring things to perfect again. As if they were ever perfect. As if to be broken is not also perfect. As if to be open is not the path towards joy. The vase that's been shattered and cracked will never hold water. Eventually it will leak. And at some point, perhaps, we'll decide that we're done with picking our flowers anyway and no longer need a place to contain them. We just watch them grow as wildflowers do, unfenced, unmanaged, blossoming only when they're ready. And my God, how beautiful they are in the midst of the mounting pile of shards. So you want to stand as you're willing and able and share in our opening hymn, There Is More Love Somewhere.
These are Ben's favorite picks for us today, so let's give him a good send-off and sing out loud and strong.
For our chalice lighting, I've asked Ben Thompson to step up and share some of the reflections on his parting from us.
Hey all, how you doing? Good to hear. Good to hear. When Jack asked me to do this, I ended up putting the first thing that came to my mind, but it very much was something I had a lot of reservations talking about, because there's some, like, for me, feelings of like potentially greed in this subject, but felt that it was good to share. So, a couple of years ago, I found myself playing music at a venue up in the mountains. I was playing music with a tribute band I had just joined, and the music was that of The Doors. For those of you that don't know The Doors, you may have heard of songs such as Light My Fire or Riders on the Storm, which was the extent of knowledge I knew about The Doors going into it. I was completely unaware of all of the impromptu poetry and free jams the band would frequently go on, which was great for me because that soothed my creative side and let me play music differently the way I liked, so I could kind of go against the grain and do something maybe people didn't expect. The gig was long, 4 hours, but it was fun, as the band played great music and they were great people to hang out with. I earned $25 on that gig. The band made somewhere around $100 to $150 guaranteed without receiving any of the ticket sales. My friends had more or less grown to expect it, as this was a prestigious venue and had housed many great bands in the days of the past. Of course, in order to play at a prestigious venue like this very one, you would have to prove your worth first. I am quite happy to say that I only played at this venue one more time, and then I never played at it ever again. But this brought an idea up for me, and while venues sought to take advantage of it, I seemed to find some people, included as well as other musicians, having this romantic idea that in order to be a musician, you have to be living out on the street and have no money to your name. You're not a musician if you haven't been in the struggle, And New York bass player Adam Neely summed this up really, really well when he was talking about an indie rock band named Wednesday losing money on their South by Southwest tour. They put a thread forward showing their expenses, and Adam Neely said Wednesday revealed that they lost about $100 on their South by Southwest tour. Now, this thread went viral not because of the exploitative nature of South by Southwest compensations for bands, in that there is none, but because of the perceived exorbitance of Wednesday's operating expenses. For example, $1,200 for an Airbnb. The refrain online was, "Just sleep in the van." When I found out there were bands in the Air Force, it wasn't until I saw how much they were willing to pay their musicians that I expressed interest. Maybe that shows more greed on my end than anything else. But I had only ever thought, I will either have fun playing music or I will make enough money to be comfortable. Has to be one or the other. After my first audition with the Air Force, I got to see their site, I got to meet with their musicians, and that was the first time I realized there is an option where you can have fun playing music and make enough money to be comfortable. In my opinion, I believe it is okay to do the thing you love to do and make enough money to live comfortably. I see it as a weird victim-blaming scenario where people blame the musicians for not sleeping in the van. And I hope to break fully free from this cycle, as I've stopped playing at venues that refuse to pay musicians at least $100. On the corporate side of things, though, as much as I loved working with the kids at Niwot High School, the district doesn't pay the collaborative pianists enough money to support them financially. And because of that, I am accepting a full-time job that pays and satisfies me musically. Thank you so much for listening.
I want to invite, our flaming chalice is the symbol of Unitarian Universalist faith. It suggests perhaps that within our separate selves burns a flame of unity and connection and compassion. Once felt, that fire cannot be extinguished. And so we gather, weaving our lives together. And I'm going to invite Sherman Druckster to come up and light our chalice today.
Good morning. Good morning. Chalice lighting is one of my favorite parts of UU's service. I just love it. So welcome to the first weekend of spring. Welcome, happy daffodils, happy tulips, happy birds, happy green. I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am. I vividly remember the year I joined UUCB, not the calendar year, I don't remember that one, but the experience. About 5-6 years ago, on a return flight to Denver, I sat next to a middle-aged gentleman, and he propped open his laptop, and he was working on a presentation. And you know, the airline seats are really tight, so I couldn't help but see what he was doing. And he was working on a presentation on teamwork and communication skills. And it caught my attention because I was struggling with that myself. So I asked him about it, and we quickly connected, and conversation flowed. And during a conversation, I found out that he was a Unitarian Universalist minister. I said, "What's that?" "You've never heard of Unitarian Universalism?" "No, no clue what that is." As he explained, I grew more intrigued and curious. When we parted, he said, "Why don't you Google Unitarian Universalism in Boulder?" I did exactly that when I came back. And I Googled Unitarian Universalists, and that was Unitarian Universalist Church of Boulder. Wow, we have one. And only 2 miles from my house. Double, wow. So I showed up the next Sunday. I just walked in the doors. I loved it. I loved the words I was saying when I was sitting where you are all. I loved the singing. I loved the holding hands. I loved that. And I loved the easy coffee hour connections. And right on that first date, hugging people. Triple wow. So the service ended, and if I could sing it, I would, but I can't. It ended with, "May peace be with you. May you know joy. May the light of love surround you. May the light of love surround you." I sang those words. I can't sing them loud, but I can sing them in my heart. I sang those words for days after that service. I couldn't get rid of it. That song got stuck in my head. So I showed up Sunday after Sunday, always enlightened by the sermon that carried me for the week. And here I am today, continuing that journey, feeling both challenged and cradled in this community. Continuing wow. On Tuesday, there'll be another wow. I'll participate in that fast. And I can't wait to share it with everybody in the evening, see how it all went. So there'll be another wow on Tuesday. I realize that the staff, the building, and materials that make my journey possible can only exist with my financial support. So I pledge to enable it. It's so worth it. I want to make it possible for more people. UUCB transformed my life. It added a whole nother dimension. I like this chalice in gratitude to UUCB and all that it provides for me, this community, and my city of Boulder.
We are not bound together by creed, a specific list of things we all believe exactly the same way. We are united by shared values expressed in our 7 principles and by the commitments we make to each other about what creates this community. To name that commitment, will you join together in person and online and speak our covenant together? If you're wise. We gather in fellowship, speak truth to each other, to reach out and touch one another, to care with each other, and to seek the truth divine. So be it. So our first sharing this morning is by Henry Kroll.
Well, what an introduction. I think you'll get an idea of my life from my remarks. But you know, I wanted to start out, we talked about a Unitarian minister. Well, there was a book a while back, many of us might remember, by a Unitarian minister. All I really learned was what I learned in kindergarten. Until I was 12, I went to the closest public school in Brooklyn to Ebbets Field, where the Brooklyn Dodgers with Jackie Robinson played baseball. My book, therefore, is called Everything I Learned About Vulnerability, I Learned from Baseball. Now I could give you a recap of my Unitarian Universalist bona fides, the number of general assemblies I attended, presentations and programs, marches and for peace and justice, and even doing makeup, strangely enough, on Ronald Reagan for public television. I had bad dreams that night. But many here today know me best during my membership at UUCB, which was highlighted by the challenges I experienced as a care partner with my loving wife, Jean, who was living with Alzheimer's until she passed away 4 years ago. Challenging as those days were, each day was actually filled with experiences of love and deep and abiding care. And our entire UUCB helped sustain both myself and Jean during those challenging years. The love I had known was not always evident in my earlier, younger life. But with the love of the Brooklyn Dodgers, I know what disappointment was. Especially when they left beloved Brooklyn and their millions of fans for the gold of Los Angeles. It broke this 12-year-old's heart. Much later, as a married man, I lost my dream job as a press officer for the city of San Francisco in what I thought was the start of a career with the city, serving citizens. But my boss at the time, Mayor George Moscone, was assassinated along with Supervisor Harvey Milk in 1978. By not finding new work, my wife at the time insisted on a divorce. Why was this so important is that my self-esteem was really challenged. My commitment for the city was cast aside as I became cannon fodder for the new mayor's attempt at house cleaning, while the big fish was still swimming around City Hall. A transition to self-employment was encouraged by my sister's father, and given those changes, I envisioned a cheese and gourmet shop where I could be my own boss and serve the needs of the growing specialty food market in San Francisco. The stakes didn't seem high. My $50,000 professional business plan initially received family encouragement, so I traveled to New York City, where they live, to make my pitch to my well-to-do aunt and uncle. My trip was well underway when I learned that my father told the rest of his family not to help Henry. Returning to San Francisco in the dark and dreary winter and the vast disappointment of a family visit, I went downtown to pick up business mail at the main post office. There unfolded a life-changing surprise. My mail arrived with a government envelope, the same kind that you get with a tax refund. I wasn't due anything, and I hadn't even filed yet. Inside, though, was a government check for over $27,000. There it was. So after my family said no to my plans, here was the US government saying yes, and with enough money to get my store started. But how could I get those funds since the Treasury's check was not in my name? Was there a way to get those funds into my bank account? At least for a little while before they caught me. And then I could make financial restitution from my successful store. I thought, could I get some of the funds from the mafia through my cousin Brucey? After a weekend's torment, I figured the best chance actually was to write something to the rightful recipient of the check, Mr. William Fry from Santa Rosa, California, and say how concerned I was that it was misaddressed, and perhaps a small reward would result. In a few days, I got a call from Mr. William Fry, and he started chatting and said he'd like to meet me next time he was in San Francisco, and we did. He told me of his own career and disappointments in life and marriage, and how he was in the furniture business as a vendor to the federal government throughout California and the West. Mr. Fry was about 65 and suggested, based on my interest in business and good government, that I join him on some business calls, and we went to the VA Palo Alto, the Veterans Administration Hospital in Palo Alto, where he was working with designers on a new wing for the spinal injury victims of the Vietnam War. In a few days, we received an order for over $100,000 of furniture for that project. In 1985, I joined Mr. Fry's company, which allowed me to be in business while helping government agencies and working within my values and without the capital needed for a retail store. Eventually, I became the owner of Western Government Supply and retired in 2007 when I moved to Boulder to help found Silver Sage Senior Co-Housing with Jean, my wife, who is living with Alzheimer's. We joined UUCB to help build community here as well. And many of the life's challenges we did while doing work for good. Well, back to baseball. As Yogi Berra said, it ain't over till it's over. And I'm studying a new book, How Life Imitates the World Series. And today I'm living with Ellen Snyder at Silver Sage, one of the members here at UUCB, and we continue to build community there and in this congregation. So I close with these wise words from Professor and author Brené Brown. Vulnerability is the birthplace of love, belonging, joy, courage, and creativity. It is the source of hope and empathy and authenticity. Thank you.
Let's take a moment and bring to mind those things for which you are grateful or for which you are joyful. Let's take 3 slow breaths as we contemplate that. You can bring to mind those things or people for which you grieve or worry. For all the joys and sorrows that we hold in our hearts, let's hold this compassionate space together with love. And for those of us here, I invite you to come forward as you feel so moved. Silently take a stone and place it in the earth to symbolize your joy or care, taking their place within the larger whole, mingling with each other, and held in the hands of this earth.
All we are, we have found in song. You have drawn this song from us. Songs of lives unfolding fly overhead, cry overhead. Longing rising from the song within.
Moving like the rise and fall
Arise and fall of
hands that shape our calling
falling voice of answers. You've heard our cry. You've known our cry. Music's fierce compassion flows from you. The night is restless with the sounds we hear, is broken, shaken by the cries of pain. For this is music's inner voice saying, yes, we hear you. All you who cry aloud, and we will fly. we sing as love. Afraid, uncertain, yet our flight begins as
The story I want to share with you this morning is of my 10-plus years working on the Navajo Reservation, or the Res. It's the home of the Navajo or Diné people in the Four Corners area of the Southwest. There's about 190,000 Diné people living in an area the size of West Virginia. Some live in towns like Kayenta and Tuba City and Chinle, but many live in dispersed home sites without access to utilities that we find as common. My job there was to obtain the legal rights to very small patches of land that would, around the Navajo Nation, that would house cellular communications towers. This required getting approvals at two levels: the local chapters, which is the governing entity that's scattered out all over this large area, and the national government in Window Rock. I'm a fast learner, but what I needed to learn about their customs and procedures took quite a while. Very little is actually published, so it requires sitting through meetings to observe their processes and hopefully finding someone who will take the time to teach you. Much of their business is conducted in Navajo, although it's not a written language, so at least the documents were in English. Navajo people in positions of authority generally don't trust white people, and there's really good reasons for that, because they've been abused for generations by outsiders. I found that the people at the local chapter level really needed and wanted this service, and they approved it very easily. They would tell stories in chapter meetings about watching people die after traffic accidents and no way to get to emergency services in time. They had difficulty in getting back and applying for jobs because they had no telecommunications. And then the older folks would say, listen, our young people, they get educated and they don't want to come back because they don't have access to these things. And that was before broadband. It got even worse later on when broadband was widely available. But I'm happy to say they caught up. They have really effective broadband on Navajo now. So then I would go to the Capitol in Window Rock with my little approval, and I learned about the many barriers and obstacles that are almost like a game there. They didn't trust this new technology. This was in the late 90s and early 2000s. And they really didn't see the urgency in getting that service approved for people. So I found myself very frustrated and pessimistic. And I sensed that I wouldn't maybe succeed at this. Each tower site that I had to get approved required a separate political act. And there was a committee that had to approve it. Their agendas were full of many items that they were considering, and at least half the time, they wouldn't be able to get to my client's application at that meeting. They would say, oh, so sorry, you have to come back next month. This was very humbling for me. You know, I was used to dealing with typical real estate where money and timeliness are really understood and valued. And it appeared that this form of delay was meant to humiliate outsiders and see if they would come back. But I did, and I earned, whether it was trust or tolerance, I'm not sure, but I kept showing up month after month. And I actually came to see my role as an agent for the people who lived out in the chapters to get this service. And that kind of helped me relate to them. I didn't really have power in this process. And so I was really struggling. You know, I didn't sense how I was going to succeed. And I really took it personally. And I finally came to realize it wasn't me they were having trouble with, it was what I represented. So with repeated trips and lunches and conversations about their families and their interests, slowly began to be accepted. And also they came to see self-service as a much more urgent and necessary feature for their people. And I developed some relationships with some of the officials, as I say, probably more tolerated than trusted. And I also came to understand how their community worked, which I really enjoyed and appreciated. This was hard to explain to my clients. They were off in Castle Rock or in Phoenix, and I had to explain to them that these delays were just part of dealing with the local DNA. And so the failure was always pending. You know, why is this taking so long? And this was new for me. The larger lesson I finally learned was not to connect my efforts with results. Just stick with the process and trust that it's going to happen. And, of course, to not take it personally. When I made mistakes when I was a kid and into my early adolescence, I was often made to feel stupid, and it's haunted me. I've struggled in my young adulthood to gain a sense of competency. I've had years of therapy about all this, but this inner turmoil still is out there. Like, you know how a mosquito buzzes around at dusk in the summertime? You can't see it, but you know it's there. It's kind of what it is for me. So I found a quote in this vulnerability package that kind of describes what I experienced. The writer is Mark Manson, and it goes, "It's the backwards law in action. In order to become more resilient and more formidable, you must first bear your flaws and weaknesses for the world to see. In doing so, they lose their power over you." Looking back, I'm glad for the experience that I had and the service that was provided over that large area of the Four Corners. And I cherish the relationship of those years on the res. I'm very grateful for the lessons I was able to learn there. So my recipes for life, for living, which is the theme of this. First, value the process without too much stress on the outcome. Second, there's more time to get things done than your anxious striving believes to be true. Third, if you react to conditions personally, it's probably because you won't accept things the way they are, but would rather than how you would like them to be. And finally, when options seem impossible, way will be found. So, we're going to our next hymn, "My Life Flows On in Endless Song." Stand as you're willing and able and sing out.
My life flows on in
Good morning. I'm Rosemary Lohndorf. Brene Brown often talks about vulnerability. What I find so interesting about Brene is that all her deep wisdom comes from hours and hours of research, talking with people and compiling and categorizing the responses. She says, owning our story can be hard, but not nearly as difficult as spending our lives running from it. Embracing our vulnerabilities is risky, but not nearly as dangerous as giving up on love and belonging and joy. The experiences that make us the most vulnerable. Only when we are brave enough to explore the darkness will we discover the infinite power of our light. When I was 21, I got my first teaching job. I came from England and jumped a couple of grades, so I was 20 when I graduated from college. But don't feel bad, I was able to retire at 52. People would poke their heads in the classroom and not even think the teacher was in there, and they'd look around, and I'd be like, I'm teaching here. I was partly estranged from my parents at the time and trying to find my way in the world. I was looking for my path, and I started reading books to help myself navigate, to help me shape the map I was developing. Wayne Dyer, I read a lot of him, as well as a book about the rights people have. My parents were very controlling, and I was seeing that I had the right to many things that they had not given me. I was looking for tools, and there it was in the bookstore, the Handbook to Higher Consciousness. This book became my Bible for quite a time. It couldn't have been better named. I loved it and started memorizing the 12 rules it offered. And this is like my, Xerox copy from way back then that I studied. It was a long way up to Nederland, and I took the bus, and I would use the time to study. This rule was rule number 7, and it opened my heart to others. Rule number 7, I open myself genuinely to all people by being willing to fully communicate my deepest feelings, since hiding in any degree keeps me stuck in my illusion of separateness from other people. So imagine trying to memorize all 12 of those. They're kind of long and lengthy. But I started learning to open my heart to others and found they would open their hearts to me. It became a guidepost for my life journey. Most of the time it worked really well. Friendships deepened. I have friends from Nederland that I still see to this day. Many years later, I moved to a new school and didn't know many people, and it took a while to get integrated into that school. One day, a teacher came up to me and said, how was it going? And I said, I'm just a little lonely at lunchtime. And after that, she made a point of sitting with me and eating with me. And opening my heart has never served me wrong. I also found that it takes an inner strength to be vulnerable. I didn't know I had it, but I actually do. And still, when you share with someone, you're never sure of the outcome. Brene says, vulnerability is not winning or losing. It's having the courage to show up and be seen when we have no control over the outcome. Vulnerability is not weakness. It's our greatest measure of courage. And, of course, you need discernment, too. You need to protect yourself. I'm not going to tell you my most vulnerable story yet because I'm still not ready to share it. Brene Brown calls being strong and discerning having a strong back and a soft front. She got that phrase from Roshi Joan Halifax, who said, all too often our so-called strength comes from fear, not love. Instead of having a strong back, many of us have a defended front shielding a weak spine. In other words, we walk around brittle and defensive, trying to conceal our lack of confidence. If we strengthen our backs, metaphorically speaking, and develop a spine that's flexible but sturdy, then we can risk having a front that's soft and open, representing choiceless compassion. The place in your body where these two meet, strong back and soft front, is the brave, tender ground in which to root our caring deeply. So I'm vulnerable when I share with you that I like Neil Diamond. People often make fun of me for that. Lots of times in there for family teasing. My husband would put my albums in the car when we're moving and say he hoped they'd stay out in the car and melt in the heat. For a long time, Neil was a big part of my life, and my bucket list was just to meet him. I'm vulnerable when I share that I play with Legos. My brother and I used to play with them when we were small, and our father was busy working, and our mother was sleeping her way through depression. We played for hours and hours. Now I build Christmas houses and playhouses, and my husband hates it because you know how you rattle through the Legos to find the one you want? But my grandgirls come over, and we build together and play together. I'm vulnerable when I tell you that I had breast cancer and reconstructive surgery 3 years ago. It was a deeply personal experience, and yet I know that I'm not alone in that experience. In my home, we never were encouraged to be vulnerable. My mother was from Berlin and was there during World War II. And my father was English, so in England during the war, and from what I've seen, the way they all made it through was to suppress and keep calm and carry on. So I understand them, and yet I grew to know being vulnerable was good for me. I kept on applying rule number 7, and it kept working for me. My dear friend Connie had breast cancer and later pancreatic cancer. She could never be vulnerable or ask for help in her younger days, yet with her second diagnosis, she reached out to a network of friends for help. I helped her plan her memorial service. We put together a book of her finances, her legal documents, and other papers. She learned to be vulnerable and to rest on other people, and it supported her. So my recipe for living is strong back, soft front, wild heart. And a blessing for you is may you open yourself to others so that you may see each other in a loving way. We're going to do a little sharing. So I'd like you to find a partner or two if that works. So turn to someone in your row and pair up visually, look at each other, decide who you're going to talk with. If you don't have someone, you might have to get up and move a little bit. Okay. So the question is, share, was vulnerability celebrated, encouraged, modeled, shamed, or punished in your family of origin? So when I ring the gong, you'll switch partners and just begin to share. I'll read it one more time. Was vulnerability celebrated, encouraged, modeled, shamed, or punished in your family of origin? And let's begin. Switch if you haven't already. 2 more minutes. Thank you. Perhaps these conversations can be carried on through the coffee hour. And I know that last time we did this, I met people on either side of me that I hadn't spoken to before, so we wanted to throw that in. So thank you for sharing, and I'll turn it back over to Jack.
So, time for the offering. And this month our shared plate offering goes to Mother House. Mother House helps those who identify as women, transgendered, or binary and their children, providing spaces of safety, respect, and kindness to all who can find them. They work to inspire confidence and belief in the dignity and worth of all human beings who walk through their doors. Mother House strengthens people while sheltering them. Started in 1982, Mother House has provided at-risk mothers and their babies with a nurturing, supportive, and empowering residential community. They work to give individuals the support and resources they need to walk out their doors more prepared for life ahead, better enabling residents and their children to strive. So I invite you to give as generously as you are able. For those online, you can use the QR code or find a link in the video description. For those of you gathered, you can also use a QR code. I was skeptical and actually saw somebody using that last week, so it actually is a useful tool. So may our gifts be used to enact justice, bringing peace and love to our Boulder community. It's our offertory. Tell us the name of that, Ben.
Liebestraum.
Is it Chopin?
Liszt.
Liszt, Franz Liszt. Thank you, Liebesraum. We receive this offering with gratitude as the outward and visible manifestation of our inward commitment to changing lives and changing our community. So I want to close, closing words is a poem by Gene Olson called Go Boldly. May you be brave enough to expose your aching woundedness and reveal your vulnerability. May you speak your deepest truths, knowing that they will change you as you do. May you sing the music within you, composing your own melody, playing your song with all your heart. May you draw, paint, sculpt, and sew, showing the world your vision. May you write letters, poetry, biography, slogans, graffiti, the great novel, laying bare your words to love and hate. May you love even though your heart breaks again and again. And until the end of your days, may your life be filled with possibilities and with courage. If you can stand and share our closing response.
Go your way and